All right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit today about the Panama Canal. Panama Canal, certainly one of the more notable achievements that the United States has to its credit over the past 150 years or so. But it wasn't really the United States who first had the idea. The first idea really came from the French. The French made the first attempt, and the guy they picked to lead that attempt was a guy by the name of Ferdinand de Lesseps. He had actually successfully built the Suez Canal, very highly regarded, very highly thought of, and so they pick him to lead up this first attempt to build the Panama Canal. But the French encounter all kinds of problems. They have trouble with malaria. The Panama Canal is much different than the Suez Canal. Suez is desert. The Panama is mountainous and jungle. And they're trying to dig the Panama Canal through the mountains with pickaxes and shovels and wheelbarrows. And not only that, they were going to try to dig a sea level canal. So, in other words, basically dig a big ditch all the way across Panama. And that proved to be ineffective. The significant thing that comes out of that first attempt was actually one of the younger engineers that worked for Ferdinand de Lesseps. The guy's name is Philippe Bunau-Villa. And he is an engineer, and he works on this first canal. And he's the one who convinces the United States that really Panama is the place. He never gives up on the dream of building a canal through Panama that was first dreamed by Ferdinand de Lesseps and the French. And so he persuades us to go ahead and place our efforts towards Panama. We certainly were considering other sites. We were considering Nicaragua. There's a big lake right in the middle of Nicaragua, Lake Nicaragua, that would have been very helpful. We were considering Mexico, right down by the Yucatan Peninsula, the narrowest point of Mexico there. And when all was said and done, we just decided that Mexico, that route was really too long. The canal was going to be too long, and so that was not a viable option. But we were really seriously looking at Nicaragua. And in fact, it looked like we might even pick Nicaragua. The Congress was debating back and forth, and Philip Bunau-Villa, according to legend, writes a letter to the congressmen who are concerned. And the contents of the letter really aren't what catch the congressman's attention. What catches the congressman's attention is Philip Bunau-Villa puts on the envelope a stamp from Nicaragua. And one of the national symbols of Nicaragua till this day is a volcano that's down there. And the volcanoes on the stamp, the congressmen look at that, and at least according to urban legend, they say, oh my goodness, there's volcanoes down in Nicaragua? Well, we can't build our canal next to volcanoes, and Nicaragua's out. And so Panama gets the nod, in part because of the efforts of Philippe Bunau-Villa. So everything goes along. We're going along pretty well. And Panama was part of Colombia, so now we had to negotiate with Colombia to get permission to actually dig the canal. And we do that. We send John Hay, remember the author of the Open Door Notes, down there to negotiate with a gentleman by the name of Hay-Harran, who is the foreign minister to Colombia. And he negotiates a treaty, the Hay-Harran Treaty. And we get a 6-mile wide strip of land across the Isthmus of Panama. In return, we agree to pay Colombia $10 million and a rent of $250,000 a year that could go up throughout time. So it was a pretty significant deal. We were giving them a lot of money for it. But before we can go ahead and start digging the canal, the Colombian government is overthrown in a coup. And the military leaders of Colombia decide, we don't like this deal. We're backing out. We're not going to honor our agreement. And we said, wait a minute, you can't do that. But it looked like, well, yes, they can. And so we were kind of out of luck, and that was going to be the end of it. Enter once again our friend Philippe Bunau-Villa. He goes down to some of the businessmen in Panama who lived there, because it's sparsely populated, really till this day. There's not a huge population in Panama. And he says, look, you're the losers here. You know, the United States, they're going to keep on plugging along. The guys down in Bogota, Colombia, they're already wealthy. You're going to lose out on a lot of money. And so you need to do something about that. And he convinces them that if they go ahead and declare their independence from Colombia, that the United States would turn around and sign the same deal with them that they had already signed with Colombia. And so sure enough, the businessman Philippe Bunau-Villa knows, go ahead and revolt, and they declare their independence on November 3rd, 1903. Colombia's furious. They go ahead and we're going to put this down. The problem is Panama's so mountainous, there's no overland route from Bogota through the mountains up to Panama. So in order to get their troops there to put down the quote-unquote revolt, Colombia would need to use its navy. Enter the U.S. Navy. Again, the one built by Teddy Roosevelt. They go ahead, they sail down, they park their boats outside Colombia, and they tell Colombia, please don't take your troops out of there. And so the U.S. Navy prevents Colombia from landing troops. We immediately recognize Panama as an independent country, November 6, 1903, and the Panamanian Revolution is done without so much as a shot, basically. And we support them in their bid for independence. And so, yeah, we turn right around, sign the same exact deal with Panama, and we start construction of the Panama Canal. The canal was difficult. In fact, our first efforts looked like they were going to end in the same results as the French. We had problems with malaria, we had problems with mudslides, just absolute one disaster after another. It was so deadly down there. So many workers were dying that we were having trouble recruiting people to go down. We were having to pay them 2, 3, 4 times what a typical worker would ordinarily make doing that kind of job because it was so dangerous. And it looked like the canal was going to fold. It looked like it was going to be unsuccessful. Enter the chief engineer, George Goethals. He comes out of the railroad industry. And one of the biggest problems we had wasn't actually digging the canal. It was what to do with all the dirt, all the overburden once we dug it. And he designed a rail system that probably no one else in the world could have designed at the time that got rid of that. It would take the overburden off, dump it into the sea, and literally they added square miles to the land mass of Panama with all the dirt and rock and overburden they dumped into the ocean there. And so they go ahead and they start removing all of that stuff. By the time it's all said and done, 5,600 people will die from things like malaria, from things like mudslides. Another thing that really changes the course of the canal is when George Goethals takes over, the first order he gives is to stop work. He realizes that if they're going to build the canal, they need a safe place for the workers to live. And so they stop work on the canal altogether, and they start going ahead and cleaning up the living arrangements. There was a new theory about malaria being spread by mosquitoes, and he says this is the problem. He brings in a doctor who believes this, and they go ahead, they start draining swamps. They start going ahead and treating the swamps that are around for mosquitoes, so they cut down on mosquitoes. They pave the roads and put in storm sewers so there's not standing puddles in the muddy ruts. And they bring in a modern hospital. They put screens on all the doors and windows of the houses where the workers live. They build a modern hospital there. And once that's done, all of a sudden the death rates to malaria go way down. And all of a sudden it's a feasible place to work. And in fact, it's a nice place to live. And they start attracting workers to go ahead and finish. So once they finish that, the town where the workers live, now they go ahead and they start digging the canal again. And that, along with the railroad, are probably the things that make it a success at all. The other thing that really goes ahead and makes it a success, well, couple other things. One, we abandoned the idea of digging a sea level canal. We're not going to dig a big ditch. Rather, we're going to take the canal up and over the mountains. What we go ahead and do is we build a series of locks that raise the ships up. And those locks are filled with rainwater. Panama gets tons of rain. It's a rainforest. And they go ahead and dam up a river that was there, and they make an artificial man-made lake, Lake Gatun. And that lake really is most of the length of the Panama Canal through the mountains. So there's a lot less digging that actually needs to take place because we use Panama's own natural resource, its abundance of rain, to go ahead and lift us up and over the mountain range. The other significant thing that really helps us out, advantage we had over the French, besides ditching that idea of a sea level canal, we go ahead and we have a technological advantage. Steam shovels, railroads, these were things that the French did not have at their disposal yet when they made their attempt, especially steam shovels. And this really helps us out in our attempt to go ahead and dig the canal. And it's those things that make it successful. And by the time it's all said and done, the cost is absolutely enormous. The little 6-mile wide strip of land across the Isthmus of Panama cost us more. It cost us more to build that canal and get that land than all other U.S. acquisitions combined. Cost us more than the Louisiana Purchase, Alaska, Texas, California, Arizona, New Mexico, all the stuff we got from the Mexican-American War. Cost us more than the Philippines, Guam, Puerto Rico, what we paid for after the Spanish. Cost us more than all of that other territory combined. That's how valuable we thought the Panama Canal was, and really how valuable the Panama Canal is. Okay, that takes care of the notes. Again, here's a quick little quiz here if you want to quiz yourself. Go ahead and pause the video here or rewind if you need to go back and look stuff up. But can you answer these simple questions from what we just talked about? Thanks a lot. Bye.